integrate within IT infrastructure of large companies. So the idea is like, if you're doing an MVP or some prototype, it doesn't really matter. You can do whatever you wish. But as soon as you want to scale or to launch a real project within a large or medium-sized company, you will have to talk to all the systems, right? So first of all, this is more than ever. Please try to help in any manner that we can. Right? It's important, and I'm Russian saying that. Arthur. So we are supposed to be two to present that, but Arthur is really tired, so he's here. But he is my technical portion. So if you have a really technically complex questions, he can answer all of them. Promise. We both started coding quite young, and we are coders, so that's important. So we are like aliens here. So we like to code, we like code, and it's our second company. So the first one we did 400 people of developers only, and now we don't have to do and as I said, if you want we got some smart guys here on our booth. So if you want some free consulting about any problem you have, come here. So first, I said we love to code, but this is kind of the question I got a lot from the big IT directors is like, oh, isn't Nocode a real thing, or is low code is a thing, or it will disappear like many other hypes? So what I'm used to answer them. So if you see that picture of Nocode, it doesn't just appear to pop up out of nowhere. We actually had it's a natural, progressive innovation, very incremental one, rising with the level of abstraction. So we started with chips and wires. We then did a lot of assembler. We started to compile languages. So because we are lazy, we like simplifying things. So the last biggest innovation in our industry was the framework, the CMS, Drupal, Laravel, Symfony, whatever. So the next natural step would be the Nocode. You might say, but for the old ones. So I see some guys who are older than others. But I remember Visual Basic. That wasn't real Nocode. It was Nocode. But when you see all these guys like AppSmith and Babel, it's like, look, this existed already, almost 20 years ago. So why did it took so long to have thousands of people coming to this conference? Well, the problem is that we needed a lot of. It was too early, I think, and we needed a lot of steps in order to get there. The first one, APIs. This is why we are talking today about this integration. Without APIs, the no-code tools is like a useless tool because you cannot retrieve data, you cannot update data. So we needed APIs, and APIs took a lot of time to actually be everywhere. The second thing is we needed powerful browsers because when you take if you take Internet Explorer 6, yeah, it's the same. That was a terrible engine, and we needed these powerful browsers to support these tools and the interfaces and all this level of abstraction. Front-end frameworks. We couldn't build anything of that if we didn't have React and Angular, because it's very complicated to write plain JavaScript and HTML. And then we needed also the usage. Why would we need no-code tools if the only thing we needed in e-commerce was the no-code tools? We all see them. They're very useful for internal small apps or citizen builder apps. But there wasn't usage before we have covered the CRM, the CMS, the DAM, the PIM, all the things. So once the enterprise was equipped with all these tools, we can now spend time and money and invest in the no-code. And finally, UX stability. And I will get back to this one because I think this is the most important driver why no-code will place in most of the places the code. So I have a question. Did you notice that since, I would say, 40 years, all the cars look absolutely the same? Look, it's terrible. It's real. It's not a competition. They're all different cars. And the websites do the same. If you see, this is very random websites I took they all have the same structure, the same features, the same way. And this is exactly why we have the sign up, and the sign is on the right top corner, and not on the left. This UX stability comes from a usage. So we spent 30 years now building software, building websites, and we acquired some kind of stability. This is why you're using QWERTY keywords or all the cartoons the same, because the industry can actually optimize to the best possible solution for the sign-up, for the management of workflow, for the tables and all the components. So now we don't need to experiment or to find how to best create a, I don't know, a table presentation or a workflow. We know how to do it, and all the people, all the users know how that will have this sign up on the left, that the burger menu is actually a menu and not a burger, and stuff like that. So now we are ready to actually replace most of the features that are coded by no-code solutions. And again, how it started. We got initially a push for a more complex front end. That means that we needed more features. In Facebook and Google, they need. So they created React. And only then we discovered headless. Oh, it's quite cool. We could create all the websites separating the front end and the back end. So we actually reduce the overall complexity of our infrastructure. So we had the front end guys doing their shit, and we had the back end smart guys doing their shit. We're all doing bugs, but at the end it was better. But because we got the headless, okay, now we have frameworks doing the front end, back end APIs. We have Mac architecture, so it's microservices, API first, cloud, native, and headless. Cool. We have the cloud, we have the back end thing, we have the microservices, a lot of small APIs. We don't know how to manage them. There are too many, and okay, but and now we are ready. We can do the no-code stuff. Only now. So I have a question for Alto because he's a real coder. To be honest, he doesn't really like no-code stuff. I want to code. So he spends his time on this black screen there. So Alto, do you think? And I really hope you will get the right answer. So will no-code kill developers?
Depends.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question. No. So the easy answer for me is obviously no. It actually depends on the long term. I think more or less yes. Why? Why that is? I think the front end part, where we see that building a front end is not complicated. I think the whole front end part, almost the whole front end, will be entirely no-code within 5 years. I don't see any reason to write React placing your buttons with CSS is absolutely nonsense. It's like writing assembler, nonsense. So I think that all this front-end part, and we don't need this beautiful parallax 3D stuff rotating around. We all know that usability, simplicity is important. So because we need simplicity, we'll get these all same cars. And because we all have all these same cars, it's okay to have reusable components in building the front end in no code. In the back end, the things are a little bit different. I know that there's a lot of like Salon guys, like, okay, we do backend automatic API generation. I don't think it would be possible for another maybe a few years because this is where the business logic is, and this is where you need actual performance, security, and you need complex data structure manipulation, which is simply easier to do with code. Doesn't mean that it's not possible to do visually, but it's way more easier to do it with code. So now we've talked about why and how I think no code appears, what could be the future. Let's see a little bit about how it actually integrates within enterprises on covering several topics. Let's say very few topics, but I think it's important. The first one is the API. Yes. Now it comes. Why? Okay, API culture. So I think that the third thing is if you're inside a company and you say, is it for us? The good question to ask yourself is, do I have APIs internally? Because the more APIs you have, the more problems you have. But it's also the point where you can use no-code apps. Because as we said, the backend stuff will be where your microservices guys will write code in Go, in Python, whatever. You have this AI stuff, whatever. Business logic, databases, microservices, your ERP and your SaaS software. They all have APIs. The more you the no-code is really the sweet spot is on these front-end usability apps. So if you have mobile apps, website, portals, you have hundreds of guys with hundreds of solutions now available to create your internal apps. So more API, more value the no-code will bring to you. And as you see, almost everybody, well, almost, I cannot make a list of all the no-code tools, 600 lines, but I took random, to be honest. Don't be offended if you're not on the list. So we were by logo and logo. They all propose REST API, even Webflow now starts. Glide is doing that. It's a strange thing that they're doing. Funny thing, what you can notice is that there is not only REST API, right? There is also GraphQL and gRPC. But what we see is none of the no-code tools today supports GraphQL. What it doesn't say? It says us the no-code didn't yet penetrated enterprise market, right? Low-code is there. NDX, OutSystems, Power Apps are already inside enterprises today, and they exist 20 years. But the new generation of no-code tools didn't see the need, the pain point of having GraphQL support. It says, because GraphQL is used mostly in large companies, it's not quite yet there. But I think the day, and we see immediately who is playing inside the enterprise market is Retool and AppSmith, because they both support gRPC and GraphQL. gRPC is very useful in microservices and communication, real-time stuff, and GraphQL is more for communication with complex nested objects. But they all support APIs, so it's no risk there, right? Well, this is again very opinionated opinion about which tool you should use, but for internal apps specifically, they have many choices. There are very good integration of different kind of APIs. The next topic is authentication. I think this is an easy one. As soon as you are getting inside an enterprise, you will have this internal SSO and authorization layer. They all provide. The good thing is, again, now we are ready, because authentication was an issue for many years, and it was really painful process but all those SIML2, OpenID, now the protocols and the service provider, the service providers are ready, and you have Microsoft Palo, what we're saying now, that provides authentication, and all the tools provide SSO with these major systems. So again, you put your system inside. If you're using one of these systems, and it's 99% chance you are, there will be no problem to integrate your no-code solution within your organization. So guys will have the same logic. The next thing that covers is files, because this is a usage that is almost inexistent when you're with your small and medium business. But once you go to the enterprise market, there is a lot of files management, PDF, and invoices and stuff. So there is today, storing files in the cloud using no-code is very easy. They all have this S3 connection, or you can send files to an SFTP, or you can store files in Amazon. It's very easy. Displaying files starts to be more interesting. It depends. PDF are shown in most of the tools. Images can be shown too. Nobody except Microsoft can provide you the data files. Changing Excel file, it's almost very complicated using the today tools. Another big question is obviously the security. I think that is I would say the number one or number two concern of all the IT directors. But basically, when we talk to the IT directors, what they say, first, vendor locking. Well, I say, okay, where are you hosted? AWS. Oh, okay, so you're vendor. And then he says, yes, but if I develop with my small agency in Symfony Symfony-based application, I will have no vendor locking. And then 5 years later, well, this is a clunky bunch of code there, and nobody wants to touch it, so they just decommission it. So the vendor locking is not a good argument. Second is, where will be there in 10 years? Well, they see like good bubble, they are 10 years old. Most of the companies are quite stable. Webflow is 10 years old. And the third one is, would I be blocked if I do something and I cannot do it until the end because of some feature? Well, I think that there is now a lot of tools that are completely integrating possibilities to integrate some code, so it's not an issue. Remains the third one, the fourth one, the security. This is a major issue, and let's be honest. Despite what everybody would say, yes, this SOC 2 compliant, we are not quite yet there. Okay, for many reasons. So the first one is, in all tools we might have data management issues because the tools offer you a way to connect to the API. So what happens next? Your citizen makers will happily connect to your API. So please give me your API key. Okay, and they copy paste their API key somewhere, but they don't understand what happens when you make a request, update all users with a new password, so it actually updates. So there is potentially dangerous management issue. So the most problematic is not an angry hacker from Russia. The problem is Jean-Louis Dupont, who makes a test, and then the test goes to production. The second piece is what we call auto-DDoS. So this is examples with a very beautiful GraphQL query. I'm sorry, I put code inside my presentation notes, but so this is an example of very genuine query. Get all books. That's it. So the problem is that all these types are nested. So the resulting query is thousands of nested queries. It's called the N+1 problem in GraphQL. But it's something you just can kill your ERP system or your database with a simple query without even understanding what you're doing. The next thing is the low visibility. These old tools are very new, and the IT directors, the security guys, they don't know them, and they don't have time. They are old like me. They have kids, and they don't want to learn another thing. So they are learning there as they used to do. So the Qualcomm system, pen test, and so on. And then they have this Nocode tool. Where is the code? Where is the Git? Give me the access API, and nobody knows how to answer. So it's kind of a black box for them. And you might have things like that. This is an example from an application. Oh, you see, there is a beer key inside, somewhere hidden inside the app, and nobody knows. Not the guys who built the app, neither the security team. So this is the problem. Where because we have many of these tools, the problem that might arise that we simply cannot keep up with all these different tools. And kind of security problems may arise. Authorization, that's extremely complex. You have guys like Auth0, for example. They are Okta. They built a multi-billion company just doing authorization, right? So they are bigger than all the tools included here, and just doing one thing, authorization, to show how complex it might be. And this is the maximum I can get in the apps today here. So all of them are the same. We have different roles, admin and groups. But it's not only that. You should be able to authorize per row, per line, per group, per dynamic authorization. I might have very complex set of rules who can do what. And you cannot do it today. So this is the biggest, I think, kind of the security at the wall is the biggest problem that have to be solved by those guys. But there is so many millions. I think it would be okay. They have the money to do it. So I to show that, because I wrote no-code ransomware. This is one for Cato, right? So it gets activated by a link. I don't show the link because it will delete my files. So I go search for folders in Google Drive. For each file in this Google Drive, I download the content of the file, I delete the file from the Google Drive, and encrypt the data and upload it back. This is a ransomware, so I can ask for Bitcoin. And this is the first ransomware, no-code ransomware, so you can do a lot of things, right? Obviously, I don't recommend to do that. And another one example, it's classical auto-forward attack with Microsoft Power Apps, so automate. So I just take the inbox, forward to an external website, external mail, and then I delete the forwarded mail. So nobody knows, but I get all the copies of your mails from your mom. That is obviously specifically um, bad behavior I did not propose, but something like that can be very easily set up because it's so easy to some guys, angry guy who is leaving the company. You can continue forwarding mails, and it's quite complicated to find because it uses APIs and protocols, and you don't necessarily have the right tools today inside the AI security teams to supervise these kind of threats because it's complex. It's not just calling to an API. It's because this specific user did that in these specific tools. It's very complicated to supervise now. But you have some mitigation of those risks. Well, the first, don't store your data in your bubble. But this is kind of basic stuff. Try to separate the front and the back, so you have more security to protect your data with rollbacks and backups and stuff. So use your no-code stuff in the front. Probably access your infrastructure through APIs only. I know that there's a lot of tools that offers you a way to connect to a database, but I think it's a very bad idea, obviously. And the security teams must be trained on it. So that means that the process of selecting the tool shouldn't be shadow IT, but it should go like every other software you acquire, going through tender process, RFP process, when you audit before acquiring them, and then you have your security team train on them, like any language or cloud provider you will be using. And like for any app, regardless it's no code or low code, you do security assessments. So you do pen test, you do everything. So yes, it will rise the budget, and yes, it's not 100 times cheaper than the no code than the code app, but you still have to do it. And yeah, well, and the idea is to talk. Maybe if you're a big company, to start to talk with editors with a real H24 SLA support, for example, so we're sure that when you call, you don't wake up the CEO partying in the middle of the night, but you get some guys who's actually working on issues. And finally, you can just mitigate like for any SaaS, because at the end of the journey, your no-code thing is a SaaS. Like CRM, like your Salesforce, it's no different, right? So you have this risk identification management, you will have to have this monitoring detection, DevSecOps, you have automatic remediation workflows, continuous compliance. So you have to just integrate those tools inside your classical security management. Maybe the hosting. I'm really proud of the selection of my focus. Well, that's again, it's very cool. You have most of the platform are SaaS. You don't have to really think about the hosting. They all run on AWS, but there are some of them that now see that they will not grow until they can be run inside the infrastructure. So NATV, AppSmith, Ritu, they all offer the way to run this Docker. I know that Bentix does that too, for example, offering the possibility to run a Docker wherever. So SaaS is good for small, medium businesses, but as soon as you step into the enterprise, you will need Docker somewhere. I try to remember what it's about. Now I lost my question. I think it's about Go. So now you will see a scary slide. I'm sorry. There are only two scary slides. This one and the next. So yeah, as I said, the governance. Why we need governance? This is what you have to do in any IT. Well, nobody does that, but it's like the Bible. You know, they said many things that you shouldn't do, but we all do it, right? But so the governance is a complex system, because you imagine you are in a company with 10,000 people, and let's say like 500 of them are building apps because they are citizens, right? the within and they are leaving after 2 years, and newcomers are coming. I say, I want another tool. So at the end of the journey, within 5 years, you will end up with 10,000 apps. Some of them useful, some of them not. Some of them, so you will lose control. And all the companies, big companies, they have set up some governance on the IT level, or IT direction level, where they say, okay, what kind of assets we have, digital assets we have, what is the running cost, what are which one are used, which are not, and how we manage it. So you will have to set up the same kind of governance here. You cannot just release the tool inside your company saying, go, because you will end up with a mess. So governance is important for them. And there is today not much tooling offered from the editors. So the governance have to be solved either by the editors, either by you set up in right spreadsheet. You can everything local govern the local like Airtable to govern bubble. But the governance is important because you'll have to talk about enterprise architecture, what kind of APIs, change management, what happens if the application editors offer a new version, or incident problem, what happens if it's a very, very famous app that becomes popular within your organization, there is a bug. There are critical business processes that might be interrupted because this app has been badly coded or modified, and there are other problems. So you will have to, it shouldn't be a black box. You have to really integrate that no-code apps are apps, with all this shit that has to be done. This is not the easiest GDPR. Well, the answer is simple. Most are somehow compliant, but the reality is that they are not. And anyway, even they are, you are still accountable for the GDPR. So if you are using a GDPR compliant tool, but you collect emails of your users, you are not GDPR compliant by default if you don't ask their permission. So GDPR is complex, and there will be more and more issues in the next few years because of these apps, because there are less. I know. The second complicated slide. So there are some architectural patterns that existed before the no-code, the low-code arrived. And I think those patterns didn't change since many, many years. They are very profoundly integrated in the brains of architects, developers, and IT directors. So we have to stick to them to be successful within this industry. So this is the scary file. So if it scares you, it's normal. That's exactly what was created for. To say like, you guys, IT is complicated, don't do IT. But actually, it's what we call domain-driven hexagon or hexagonal architecture. It's something that is extremely used within enterprises, and it's something that exists in most of the big organizations you will have to work with or you're working with. It says that basically you will have on the heart of this planet is entities, is the business objects. It's the product definition, it's the order, it's how the order, what are the fields. And then on top of that, you will have the main services. So kind of business logic. For example, if you want to create a new order, it will be in the second circle, creation of a new order with all these checks and controls of stops and stuff. And then we have the application services, so the checkout, for example. And at each hexagon, we have a different consumers of those services. So it might be some events, it might be access to database. So we have adapters that will connect to the database. And you see, if you create a tool like, if you put a tool like Bubble here, it doesn't match anywhere because it doesn't respect this kind of domain-driven hexagon. So it will be complicated for tools that are all-in-one tools to penetrate enterprise market. But I probably don't want to. So anyway, where in this pretty mess, no-code would be a perfect match. It's here. So it's only one place where I see today no-code tools really, really have a big edge on code is here. It's everything related to the front-end consuming is ready. We saw that they have the APIs. If they don't store data, we don't need GDPR. If we don't care about GDPR, we don't really care about the complex business logic workflows, all this stuff. It's not here. So here we have this Webflow, WeWeb, Retool, AppSmith, Make, maybe even Baserow maybe here. I don't know, software, maybe in Upfar, converting Google. They all can be here, communicating with. But when you put that slide, for example, if you're trying to sell to IT director, and you show that you actually talk the same language. So showing them that will calm him down, he will try to listen to you. So, okay, maybe we can try that. So how an example of real architecture took from a client where there is no code. I can move here. So, oops, sorry. Yeah. So the idea is quite simple. As we saw in the backend, this is what you have. This is classical components of any enterprise. They have PIM, product information management, order management system. They all connect to some database. You have Oracle here or SSQL. They obviously have microservices because everybody loves microservices without any reason, but they love it. And they can communicate with each other. And it's a big monolith, and they have to replace it with another monolith. But it's okay. So microservices. And obviously, microservices talk to each other, so we have a mesh. And these big companies, they provide extended API, and we might have some ESB here. I'm not sure that Make will replace an ESB anytime soon because there's a lot of features that the ESB does. It's for complex systems, like Vstock, for example. Anyway, at some level, we'll have an API gateway to control all that communication, right? Because we need to control access, throttling, usage and security here. And then finally comes some place for Nocode, right? So I wouldn't say that e-commerce, for example, would be a reasonable way to do Nocode because there's sold space, there is a lot of tools, Shopify, Magento, Hybris, e-commerce, whatever. It's sold with no need to rebuild it, HR portals. But then comes all that. Mobile apps. Why doing the mobile apps coding with I don't know, Swift or Java or whatever? Flow is very cool. And you can connect to the APIs, you can build your app, and the usage will be okay. And 90, well, I cannot customize everything, but nobody cares. You know, like you have 500 internal users. So who cares that you don't have this smooth transition? You have internal apps, you have retail apps, again, many internal apps could be built on top of that. And finally, your websites, Webflow, WeWeb, or whatever, could be also run. Actually, I think Webflow and WeWeb will progressively replace WordPress because WordPress is a big piece of shit. It still exists only because it's simple to use and everybody knows that. But they will be there quite soon. 50% of the web yet, but who knows? So this is basically how it should happen. In reality, it never happened like that. But again, we are open to discuss. I know that many objection or question maybe. So the idea that I think it was supposed to be a workshop, but I didn't know that. But anyway, so if you have any questions, we are here because we are a little bit early in terms of time. So we have still time for a lot of questions. So if you have it, it's like an open discussion. So if you have something to share with everybody, it's a good time to share it. Or if you have questions, we have one smart guy and one less smart guy, me, but you can ask questions. So thank you very much for being there. Sorry for these conditions, but next year, yes, of course.
Okay, the question on the big companies
yes.
Is that if we put low-code or no-code inside, what we will do with like the 300 developers that they are using actually to make shit.
Yeah, well, that's a question for a guy who probably works in a big company. So yeah. I mean, the first, well, that is great. There's a lot of things dependent. I mean, he gets the job. Sorry. Yeah. No. The the idea, I think the guys there, first of all, it's not their dream to work on internal apps, right? Writing code to provide, I don't know, information about the new CEO and to show the new CEO vision, nobody gives a shit, and it's not funny job, right? So either you simplify their lives, saying now you can do it with no code tools and it's cool and you can just do it twice faster and maybe work on some funny things, or they can just leave the company and work on something else, maybe in other, maybe joining a no code solution to
The
work.
question was how you can transform all those people who are like hard coding to like no coding or no coding.
Yeah, I
So this
think
is not
that
the same job.
yes. Well, it's not the same job, but when you start to build complex application at scale, the code is not really a problem. We all know that when you take a complex application, complex like they have hundreds of screens and thousands of queries, whatever. The problem to be solved is not that I don't know I know how to write code, it's to how to organize all that. How do I create a project? How do I optimize the different screens? And the problem is never the code. So actually, the kind of problems they were solving, writing code, and the new problems they will be solving with no controls is actually the same. 80% of their job will still be talking to the business, trying to connect that to SAP, trying to get some answers from the API guys from SAP again, or problem of connectivity or whatever. So there will be the same problem solved slightly differently by moving I don't know, buttons with your mouse or positioning them with CSS. It doesn't really matter. The complexity of the problem is still here. And yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, just to complete on the smart question, if you hire coding monkeys, you are going to find them. But if you hire smart problem-solving people, they are going to like this and take ownership of the local.
The problem that big companies often have a lot of monkeys, but
yeah, because they pay peanuts. That's why. When you pay peanuts, all you have is monkeys.
Really? Okay. You never work for a big company.
My question is, where do the cloud provider fit in this ecosystem immensely? Because AWS is launching only Code, I think, their own no-code, low-code, and Microsoft too, GCP is coming.
Well, the thing is, this is a very good question. And actually, I will be answering that question in the next session, just after this one, in the others.
Good job, good job.
So very small too, but this will talk about future of no-code. And you will find some guys in the room who will be there. The one who asks one question. No, because I'm joking, because he works for a very, very, very big company. They're using a lot of low code, and we'll be talking about the future. So the question is, what happens when what are the positions AWS, Google, and Azure? So Azure have Power Apps, AWS have Honeycode, and Google have App Sheet. I don't know. My point is that none of them actually ever tried to go inside application development. I mean, not providing the developer tools, but actually offering something used by end users. They never did that. So it's very complicated for them to actually enter this market. So they can acquire companies that probably will happen somehow in the journey. But I don't think that a cloud provider will be in this no-code game anytime soon. I mostly think that guys like Intuit or Adobe, for example, would be more probable candidates to acquire some of the no-code tools. Like we saw just Adobe acquiring Figma. Well, Figma with some API connection, pop, is more or less web, right? So, or Intuit, who nobody talks about, that they have MailChimp, they have QuickBooks, and they are enormous. They have billions of valuation. They can buy anybody here, and they will because they have direct access to the middle market SMBs. So this is if you sell your no-code solution for SMBs, like Light, for example, well, Intuit would be probably. Yeah.
I have like more philosophical question, not even a question, but what's your take on a certain thing? on your first slide, you described this transition from like the root-based cables and computers toward the Nocode today. What I had in mind was seeing this is all those technological steps became at a certain point free. Well, we're all using JavaScript here, like nobody's paying for it. Yeah, you pay AWS, but in terms of like the raw technology itself, isn't it a blocker at some point that the low code for now to become really like used everywhere? For now, we have to pay for it, just as AWS, of course, and cloud services. But isn't there a step where like the low code technologies themselves should become at some point open source, free?
No, you're mixing up a lot of things.
Yeah,
but
I guess.
But I try to get. First of all, we didn't even solve the wires problem. Look at the Wi-Fi here. But the second thing is you actually end up paying a lot of money because AWS costs probably more than having your bare metal. So nothing is free in this world. You end up paying somewhere, and open source is not free too. I mean, when you want to. I have a previous company. We did a lot of Drupal. Open source, we built a lot of money. We have 400 people doing Drupal. Gosh, there was millions spent on our guys just to do free stuff on Drupal. So nothing is ever free. So I don't get your question. Open source, they have AppSmiths. They have some of them are like base row or AppSmiths are open source. Open source will be valuable where you have no intrinsic value in the product. When the services around the product actually drives value, because this is when you create ecosystem. This is why Drupal is so popular, because there's millions of guys like we did created money and value and websites using Drupal. Drupal itself install nothing. This is the same way MySQL, but this is also why you don't have open source Adobe, or you have have you ever used LibreOffice, OpenOffice? Nobody uses. Why? Well, because there's when you can solve a problem entirely with a product, there will be no open source. So the market, I agree, is a little bit complicated with Nocode tools. On one hand, we have guys saying we don't need agency anymore. Everybody will be citizen maker, builder, and our product is enough. I don't say who did, but now they see that it's not the case. And when you start to be more and more complex application, you actually need smart guys using this Nocode tool building that. So then I would say, yes, it might be a reason for creation of an open source product. And we see that some of them are quite good. AppSmith is very good. So yeah, I think there will be some.
Do you think that the SaaS, the Nocode platform are mature enough to be aware of the security things? I mean, you are talking about pen tests. Are they mature enough to get such, I mean, be audited?
It depends. Again, I think that the guys like OutSystem, Netflix, and PowerUp, they are already inside this enterprise market. That shows two things: that all these guys here not ready yet, probably. But on the other side, if Mendix and OutSystem did nothing, it's not rocket science. It's not that complicated. So I think it's just a question of fraction from enterprise market. When, for example, there will be a guy. We have a client, Unico. Unico is a Japanese company, and they wanted some very simple tool to synchronize their cash system inside boutiques and their Salesforce Demandware. So we built an app using the tool, and there was like a lot of security questions, but because the tool was run inside the environment, it was easy to get that. But if there is a client like Uniqlo or like LVMH, you see somewhere this editor saying, "I want to use you because our internal clients want to use," they will make it possible. So there will be enough security teams or processes or because it's not that complicated. It just have to be done, and they will be doing that, prioritizing in their roadmap with the traction from this enterprise market. Finished? One last.
What are the reasons that you see low-code platforms not investing the business rules and core domain functionality?
because no business rule is the same. I mean, verticals. I mean, like inside this Nocode platform, having solution for insurance, solution for. I think that it requires a lot of maturity and a lot of repeatable clients. They have like a couple of big clients here, a couple of big clients there. They don't have all top 100 insurance companies in the world using this. So they need repeatable patterns to create. And I think the other thing is that it requires proximity with the users. A good app is an app built by users themselves or developers working with users. So a guy in as smart as they are here from the no-code solution cannot create something very useful for the end user in insurance. But I think they are solving the problem by opening marketplaces. Marketplaces today is themes, components, plugins, point. But once this is done, the next step would be like in Drupal or Linux, you have distribution. So what you will have is pre-installed configurable things that are already almost all components. So you just don't know that customize. So there will be templates, powerful template Bubble does that, but powerful templates maintained, supported with editors, making a lot of money with the editor. So we'll see this, I think, marketplace. But again, you're asking a question that will be answered in a few minutes now in the next session.
Okay.
So thank you very much.